some knowledge and ability to speak something that is relevant to our lives and encouraging in our development of Krishna Prem. Hare Krishna. We'll read verse 8 and 9, since there's no purport here. Excuse me, getting a little scratchy throat. Last night was a busy night, so Angushta matra amalam spurat purat mula mulinam abhivya darshanam shamam tadid vasa adjutam angusta matra amalam spurat purat mulinam abhivya darshanam shamam tadid vasam prachutam anugasta matra amalam spurat purat mulinam abhivya darshanam shamam tadid vasam achutam. Either of you want to try this verse?
I can chant it. I can try.
Yep.
Kushta matra mamalam spurat purata malinam apevya darshanam shyamam tadet vasham achutamam. Narottam Vilas Prabhu is putting in the chat window that he's unable to speak now.
Who?
Narottam Vilas Prabhu is saying that he's unable to speak now. Oh no, it's Chandrasekhar Prabhu saying that he's doing the live streaming.
Oh.
Narottam Vilas.
Uh-oh. Sorry. Ready to go. There. I can't see who's on or anything, so I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah, it's yourself, Josh, and I think Chandrasekhar Prabhu.
Now whoever else.
And myself right now.
And now he's live streaming, so everybody in the world can see.
Yeah.
Angushta, by the measure of a thumb. Matram only. Amalam, transcendental. Spurat, blazing. Purat, gold. Maulinam, helmet. Apivya, very beautiful. Darshanam, to look at. Shamam, blackish. Tadid, lightning. Vasanam, clothing. Achutam, the infallible, the Lord. He, the Lord, was only thumb high, but he was all transcendental. He had a very beautiful, blackish, infallible body, and he wore a dress of lightning yellow and a helmet of blazing gold. Thus he was seen by the child. Verse 9. Srimad Dirgha Chatur Bahum Tapta Kanchana Kundalam Kshat Jaksham Gadhapanim Atmana Sarvatodisham Paribharamatam Alukabhyam Brahmayantam Kadam Mahu. Srimad enriched. Dirgha, prolonged. Chaturbahunam, four-handed. Tapta Kanchana, molten gold. We all know that verse from Radharani's Pranam. Kanchana Gaurangi, molten gold, kundalam earrings, Kshatraja Aksham eyes with the redness of blood, Kada Panim hand with club, Atmanaha own, Sarvataha all, Disham around, Paribrahmantan loitering, Yukabhyam like shooting stars, Paramyantam encircling, Kadham the club, Uhu constantly. The Lord was enriched with 4 hands, earrings of molten gold, and eyes blood red with fury. As he loitered about, his club constantly encircled him like a shooting star. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It is said in the Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, that the Supreme Lord Govinda, by his one plenary portion, enters into the halo of the universe and distributes himself as Paramatma, or the Supersoul, not only within the heart of every living being, but also within every atom of the material elements. Thus the Lord is all-pervading by his inconceivable potency. Thus he entered the womb of Uttar to save his beloved devotee Marsh Prikshit. This is a little bit of the background that just after the Battle of Kurukshetra, so many things, so many Kurus and Pandavas, both sides, so many were lost in the battle. And after Duryodhana was crushed by the club of Bhima, Ashvatthama, one of the great generals, I can't remember who it is right now. Sachinandan, you remember? Is it Dronacharya? It's Dronacharya's son, right?
Ashwatthama?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Dronacharya's son. Can't be Bhishma's son because Bhishma was brahmachari lifelong. So Dronacharya's son is fighting on the Kuru side. Duryodhana was quite upset that they had lost. So in secret, in the middle of the night, he went in and killed the 5 sons of the Pandavas, sleeping sons. So they're young. Yeah, sure, he beheaded them. It's pretty gruesome to think about. But Duryodhana was actually not happy about it. But Ashwatthama thought maybe he would please Duryodhana by doing such a thing. So Krishna and Arjuna chased him down, and he shot off a Brahmastra. Brahmastra, if anyone doesn't know, is a weapon, a subtle weapon that the great Kshatriya warriors of the time had battlefield mantras. It says Brahmanas chant mantras and offer them into oblations into the fire. So the warriors had these mantras that they would chant, and the arrow would become infused with a special power. Let's explain that there is not only firepower, but also wind and earth and the other elements had access to weapons that harness this type of energy. So the Brahmastra is a weapon that is compared to an atomic bomb in potency. And if not done properly, it could destroy the entire universe. So Ashvatthama shot this off without proper knowledge. And he didn't know how to withdraw it. Krishna and Arjuna, seeing this, Krishna told Arjuna, you shoot your Brahmastra and withdraw both of them. Arjuna shot it, withdrew both of them. And then eventually they caught Ashvatthama. And there was a big discussion whether they should destroy him or not. But Draupadi, being compassionate Vaishnavi, Srila points out that this is the great quality of the women. They have this type of compassion that Draupadi was saying we should spare Ashvatthama, even though she had just lost all of her children. She was feeling that if we kill Ashvatthama, then Ashvatthama's mother not only just lost Dronacharya, but will also lose her only son. And she was feeling so much compassion for her that she didn't want to have her experience the loss that she was feeling at that time. Vaishnavas and high-class personalities are amazingly compassionate. Can't even imagine the forgiveness and deep thought she must have to be able to feel and think that way at such a time. But Krishna ultimately gave Arjuna the decision what to do. And I remember they cut the jewel off of his head or something. They somehow cut his hair. They didn't kill him, but they, I guess, shamed him. And in that time, Kshatriyas being shamed in such a way is it's almost like killing them, being humiliated or something. So at some point he again got quite angry, Ashvatthama, and shot another Brahmastra. This time he directed the Brahmastra at the last surviving heir to the Pandavas' throne, so to speak. So that was the son of Uttara, I believe was the wife of Abhimanyu. Forgive me if I have that lineage wrong, but either way, Maharaj Parikshit was the grandson of one of the five Pandavas. And he was the heir to Yudhisthira's throne. Now, the special potency of a Brahmastra is that it's so powerful that if it's directed to anybody, it would destroy that person only. So Uttara was pregnant with Maharaj Parikshit at the time. So the Brahmastra was so powerful and so precise that it would enter the womb of Uttara and kill Maharaj Parikshit inside, but not harm the mother physically. So Uttara, being a great Vaishnavi, was praying to Krishna. Must have been quite heartfelt, because Krishna appeared within the womb of Uttara and gave darshan to Maharaj Parikshit and also neutralized the Brahmastra. these two verses are describing what Maharaj Parikshit is seeing. Imagine the embryo of Maharaj Parikshit. He is seeing darshan of basically Paramatma. He has got 4 hands. As it's seen here, beautiful molten gold earrings. The verse before is infallible. Completely nothing in his bodily features that one could see as a defect. Had a beautiful dress like lightning. It's almost unimaginable. And he was only so big. What size? Thumb? I don't know. Mine's this big. The embryos was probably like this big. If you can see my hand. So the size, I guess it's relative to whose thumb they're speaking of, but we'll hear in the purport where Srila Prabhupada explains a bit more about Krishna and the ability to change sizes. But I was thinking of my wife and I were discussing this verse, and it was brought out that like the amazing benediction, the amazing devotional qualities that Maharaj Parikshit must have had to have darshan in the womb. That Krishna actually appeared to him. Krishna could have stopped the Brahmastra without appearing to him. It's inconceivable. He's all powerful. He could do anything he wants. Like sometimes the atheists would challenge devotees and say, if God can do anything, can he create a rock so big that he can't pick it up? And devotees say, of course, and then he will pick it up. Right? So this is Krishna that can do anything. So the fact that he made it a point, and that it's recorded in Srimad Bhagavatam, that the embryo of Maharaj Parikshit, what kind of devotee must he be? That he saw Paramatma, Lord Narayan, 4-handed form in the womb. The Pandavas are great, dear devotees of Krishna. It actually makes me think of 2 instances. Know exactly how they relate, but every devotee has their own special relationship with Krishna, and each form of the Supreme Lord attracts their hearts to a certain extent. I was remembering when I read this verse, 4-handed form of Krishna, he showed to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And Krishna said, this is very nice, thank you for this darshan, but I prefer to see you with your 2 hands. And also the gopis in Vrindavan, after the Ras Leela, Krishna ran off on them, and they were searching around the different kunjas and forests of Braj, asking everyone, anywhere, where have you seen Krishna? They came upon Krishna, and he disguised himself as Narayan, and he had his 2 arms out, 4 arms out, and they paid their pranams, and they said, Lord, have you seen Krishna, where Krishna went? And with his forearms, he pointed that way. He went that way. They hurried off. They were just eager to see Krishna. And when Srimati Radharani came, thinking of Radharani, this Tapta Kanchana made me think of Radharani also. Her bodily complexion is like explained as like molten gold. And our Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also this molten gold. He is Krishna covered by Srimati Radharani's luster and compassion. Karuna. When she came before Krishna in that form, he couldn't hold his four-headed form. His two of his arms melted away to reveal his Shamsundar form. Very, very sweet pastimes. So Maharaj Parikshit, being a descendant in the line of great dear friends of Krishna, dear devotees, in the mood of friendship. The Pandavas had the mood of friendship. Krishna would just like kick it in Hastinapur with them. Like for months at a time, they'd be like, "Oh, you're leaving after so many months of being here? No, stay one more week, please. One more week." And 1 more week would turn into another week and months. And no wonder when we read the past chapter where Krishna is entering Dwarka after so long, it seemed, because he was just hanging out with his friends and the Pandavas. Yeah, so it's such a beautiful reciprocation of love between Krishna's devotees. So Maharaj Parikshit, whether it's because he's an eternal associate also of Krishna, or he was born in the family of great devotees. He was a great devotee himself. I don't know. I'm not so scholarly or connected in Shakti to know such. I don't know such details of Maharaj Parikshit, but we know that he was very dear to the Lord. Not only did he save him, but he also used him as a wonderful example of what do we do at the time of death. Because this whole Srimad Bhagavatam is being spoken because of Maharaj Parikshit being cursed and asking Sutta Goswami, "What should I do? I'm about to die." And not only that, he had the benediction of knowing exactly when he was going to die. We all know that death will come at any moment, but we don't know when. So the tendency is to think, "Oh, I have time. So much time. I'm only, 20. So much time." And next thing you know, you blink your eye and you're 40. And I'm sure next thing you know, you blink your eye and you're 60. Next thing you know, you blink your eye and you're on your deathbed. And more times than often I hear that when that happens, it's, I wasted so much time. Of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has one song where he's speaking like this, of course, for our benefit, but saying, "I wasted so much time in pursuits of mundane happiness. Why did I not surrender to Radha and Krishna beforehand?" So we have the example of Maharaj Parikshit here. What do we do? And we hear from our acharyas how we should take this opportunity now. Srila Prabhupada would use this word urgency. Whenever I got together with Jamuna and Dina Tarane, they always stress this point, this sense of urgency. I've probably said this millions of times in classes, but I think it's an important point. Srila Prabhupada was often fond of repetition because we need that. I know I do, even though I say it so often, I find myself being distracted, right? I've heard my Guru Maharaj say that weapons of mass distraction, right? We have so much distraction in this world, especially nowadays with, smartphones that make us dumb and, make us so absorbed in being on our phones and distractions. So many distractions, so many desires that are opposed to developing our love and remembrance, constant remembrance of Krishna. So that's why we are here in this class, or even though I'm speaking, we're speaking nice topics of Krishna, which purify the heart. And even though maybe not nicely spoken or not so eloquent, the names and pastimes of Krishna are transcendental, and they purify the heart in such a way that we can remember him. And when death comes knocking, we hopefully have the presence of mind and accumulated development of love to remember him and chant his holy name. Anyway, let's read more of the purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord assured everyone that his devotees are never to be vanquished. No one can kill a devotee of the Lord because he is protected by the Lord. No one can save a person whom the Lord desires to kill. So I don't know the Sanskrit, but there's a saying like, Krishna wants to kill you, no one can. Krishna wants to kill you, no one can save you. Krishna wants to save you, no one can kill you. Nice point Prabhupada is bringing out here. The Lord is all powerful, and therefore he can both save and kill as he likes. He becomes visible to his devotee Maharaj Parikshit even in an awkward position in the womb of his mother, in a shape just suitable for his vision. The Lord can become bigger than thousands of universes and become smaller than an atom at the same time. Krishna's inconceivable potencies. And desire to reciprocate, like I was saying earlier, he becomes visible to his, in the shape just suitable for his vision. So Krishna reveals himself not only according to how we approach him, but in such a way that we can understand and we can relate. Thus, we see so many different forms of Krishna in every society, in every culture. There's a different, Krishna manifests himself in different ways. Sometimes as the great spirit, sometimes as an all-powerful, unseen personality, or a burning bush, or a half man, half lion, whose appearance day, Srimad, coming up next week. I think next week, very soon, if not, where he appears with four-handed form of Narayan, swinging a club, or his chakra, or flower and disc. Conch shell, or his two-handed form, riding on a chariot, this hair blowing in the wind, and he's either taking arrows for Arjuna or picking up wheels to protect him. Or he's Sham Sundar, and he might be little Gopal who's stealing butter or crying because the thunder and lightning has scared him. or he's running because he ate too much sweets, so his stomach is hurt. Or he's running through the forest with the cows, playing cops and robbers with their gopas. Or he's excuse me, sorry. Or he's dancing in the forest with the gopis, or in Mathura wrestling with wrestlers. Whatever it may be, Krishna, in whichever form he takes, does so to attract the hearts of the conditioned souls who are trapped, suffering these threefold miseries. And for much problems, birth, death, old age, disease. Whichever form he takes, it's to attract the hearts of the conditioned souls. So we are inspired to seek something more than mundane so-called happiness. Where were we? Lord can become bigger than thousands of universes and can become smaller than an atom at the same time. Merciful as he is, he becomes just suitable to the vision of the living beings. He is unlimited. He is not limited by any measurement of our calculation. He can become bigger than what we can think of, and he becomes smaller than that which we can conceive. But in all circumstances, he is the supreme, all-powerful Lord. Whether he appears as the universal form or as a fish, Matsya, in the great water devastation to pull the boat of, I forget his name, one Maharaj that was saved during that time. He is inconceivable, he is all-powerful, and he is in all circumstances the same all-powerful Lord. There's no difference between the thumb-like Vishnu in the womb of Uttara and the full-fledged Narayan in the Vaikuntha Dham, the kingdom of Godhead. He accepts the form of Archa Vigraha, worshipable deity, just to accept service for his different incapable devotees. By the mercy of the Archa Vigraha, the form of the Lord in material elements, the devotees who are in the material world can easily approach the Lord, although he is not conceivable by the material senses. The Archa Vigraha is therefore in all spiritual form of the Lord to be perceived by the material devotees. Such an Archa Vigraha of the Lord is never to be considered material. There is no difference between matter and spirit of the Lord, although there is a gulf of difference between the two in the case of the conditioned living being. For the Lord, there is nothing but spiritual existence. And similarly, there is nothing except spiritual existence for the pure devotee of the Lord in his intimate relation with the Lord. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So Srila Prabhupada is bringing out the understanding of the Archa Vigraha, the Archamurti, the deity of the Lord. And stating how he is to be seen as all spiritual. And there's one verse that states that if one considers the deity to be like wood or stone, spiritual master to be an ordinary person, they have of hellish mentality. So we should understand that although the Lord appears as the deity in in material elements so that we may conceive and perceive of him. He is not material, but he is transcendental. There is not that the deity is a representation of the Lord, but he is the Lord 100%. So I've spoken about this before, but there's a beautiful, really beautiful lecture that Srila Prabhupada gave on the installation of Radha Dwarkanath, I should say Rukmini Dwarkanath, in LA, the Chotadidi is there. When Srila Prabhupada installed them, he gave a very powerful lecture. And just telling the devotees how the Lord descends in the Arch of Vigraha form. He may look like wood or stone to our mundane senses, but that is his mercy, because unless one has spiritual vision, they cannot see the transcendental body of the Lord. So the acharyas explain that that the Lord, being all transcendental, everything in relationship to him is transcendental. So we have the name Nam, the form Rupa, the qualities Guna, and the pastimes Lila. These four things are all transcendental, and they all are revealed by the Lord's mercy. So when we sit and we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, we are chanting the Lord's name. And Padma Purana explains Namachintamani Krishnas, Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, Punashuro Nityamukto, Bhaninatvam Namanamino. The name of Krishna is transcendental. And it is all powerful. It is non-different than the name and the possessor of the name, Nam and Nami, Krishna and Krishna's name. There is no difference. They are one and the same. For an example, if we chant water, all of a sudden our thirst doesn't become quenched, right? We need to drink something. We need water, we think, oh, I'm thirsty, oh, let me drink. But when it comes to Krishna, his name, his form, his qualities, his pastimes, all are the same. He can reveal himself in any one of them in any way, just like Brahma Samhita explains that when Krishna, that any part of Krishna's body can do the function of the other. So when we offer bhoga, we cook something, we present it to the Lord, that he can taste it through his eyes, or he can taste it through his smell. So any one function of his senses can do the other, because it's not mundane, it's not of matter, it's of transcendental qualities. So he, through his name, he reveals his form. And from there, he reveals his qualities. And then eventually we get his transcendental pastimes. But it takes purity. It's said that if Krishna was to appear in his full-fledged transcendental form to any devotee in the material body, and especially in material consciousness, that they would immediately die. They couldn't take that type of potency. It just doesn't work in the material body. They just can't do it. So he reveals himself in little pieces, first in dreams, and then in visions. And then as the devotee absorbs himself in Krishna, the body becomes transcendental, becomes spiritualized. And just like an iron rod is put into fire, that iron rod is just iron, right? But when you put it in fire, it becomes hot and it becomes red hot. And there's really no difference. You touch it to something and immediately it'll start on fire. So it takes on the same quality as the fire by association. So just like when, say, we're very hungry, we haven't eaten, you're Jala Kadasi, and somebody starts cooking or starts pouring water, you're thinking, oh, I'm so hungry, I'm so thirsty, right? Just the association, you think about, oh, some nice samosa, nice whatever it is that you like. Your tongue starts to water, your mouth waters, and you think, oh, or a lusty person, they start thinking of whichever sexual orientation they identify with and are attracted to, that type of energy. The body has certain, arousal natures. So whatever the mind is focused on, the body has a natural reaction that sometimes you can't even help it, right? Like when you're hungry and you smell food, your stomach starts to rumble, and then think about, oh, the nice thing, your mouth becomes watery. So this is an involuntary reaction. When we chant Krishna's name, when we absorb ourselves in Krishna's pastimes through hearing, through associating with the devotees, that our body, we take Krishna's prasad. Srila Prabhupada would say we become Krishnized, right? That we actually start to become transcendentally affected, so that when we go through the stages of bhakti, from bhajana kriya to nishta, to anarchana vritti, nishta, ruchi, shakti, bhava, and then prema, when we reach these higher stages of bhakti, our body actually becomes transcendental by the association of Krishna. And this is why, one of the reasons why, when we don't consider the spiritual master or pure devotees as ordinary. They're not ordinary, right? It takes a great personality not only to have the determination, the fixedness to do such things, to be in such consciousness, but they're so intimately connected with Krishna. Like he's saying here, Prabhupada is saying that for the Lord, nothing is material. Everything is spiritual. There's only spiritual existence. What makes things material is our consciousness. We are relating all of the things within this world to our mundane idea, our mundane vision. But when we relate it with Krishna, like the pure devotee, everything is in relation with Krishna, so it becomes transcendental. So whether we look at the deity with transcendental vision or mundane vision, it doesn't matter. It is he is spiritual in that form. It is our contaminated consciousness to see the Lord not in that way. So when we're serving the deity, Srila Prabhupada said, so be careful, you are dealing with Krishna. But how do we approach Krishna so that he reveals himself in that way? We approach Krishna, I am so fallen, but I've come to you. And Srila Prabhupada, I'm paraphrasing the words he used. When he says this, he starts to cry. That I have come to you, I have this little thing, you please accept it. Please accept me and what I have to offer. It doesn't have to be much. If we can offer opulent paraphernalia encrusted with, that's made of gold and encrusted with gems and everything, by all means do it. If all we can do is take some clay pot, mold it into a deep, and offer some little thing, grab some leaves and offer those, pick berries in the forest, whatever, or big mountain feasts. It's the heart that Krishna accepts. The bhakti of our heart, that the love that we cultivate for him is what he accepts. So we should approach the Lord through his holy name, in his deity form, the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the form of his devotees. We have book Bhagavat and we have person Bhagavat. In order to progress through the stages of bhakti, we must surrender to book Bhagavat, person Bhagavat, and render service. Those who say are my devotees are not my devotees, but one who is the servant of my devotee, he is my devotee. So better we please the Lord by serving the devotees than trying to serve him directly. This is parampara. Just like if, we, see our friend and we say, oh, hey, how's it going? Give him a hug. And then we slap his loved one, either whether it's a child or an animal, whatever. A lot of people have dogs these days and different animals that are very dear to them. So, but we slap them. Are we going to be pleasing them? We're going to be pleasing our friend? They'll be like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you hitting them? So it's said that Krishna says that if you come to him, you fall at his feet, and you offer worship, and then you slap his devotees, or you speak ill against his devotees, you're praising. It's like you're praising the feet of God, but you're stabbing him in the gut with a dagger. This is how he feels. His devotees are very dear to him, as we can see in this pastime where he's appearing within the womb to save an embryo, because he is the devotee and the child of the devotee. So we should be very enthusiastic to appreciate the devotees. And we're almost out of time. By acting in this way, we will hopefully attract the mercy of the devotees and the mercy of the Lord, and make our lives successful. For the last few minutes, any questions or comments, anything anybody feels inspired about this verse, that we can open the for that.
Hare Krishna, Bala Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhu. Prabhu, thank you so much. It is always very, very pleasing to hear from you, Prabhuji. All the narrations of the pastimes of the Supreme Lord and his greatness. This verse is a very, very, great verse, so which is explaining the wonderful, things of the Supreme Lord, how he can become bigger and smaller, and but still his supremacy will be existing. And very, very sweet narrations, Prabhu, from your side. Thank you so much for making us understand the greatness of the Supreme Lord. I have a small question, if you could kindly permit. I want to ask you, Prabhuji.
Yes, I'll do my best to answer.
Yeah. So what I am understanding, usually in the first purport, the first lines are saying about the Krishna entering as a Paramatma, in each and every atom, even in the in the purport later also in some lines it is mentioned that Krishna enters into every universe, and also not only that, but not only in the every living entity, but also every atom he will be there, right? So in case of Parikshit Maharaj, actually, in the first lines of the sentences are saying that it is said that the purport, first lines, it is said that in the Brahma Samhita that the Supreme Lord Govinda, by his one plenary portion, enters into the halo of the universe and distributes himself as a Paramatma, a super soul, not only within the heart of every living being, but also within every atom of material elements. So even the Parikshit Maharaj, he entered here in the four hands, right? So in the previous verse also, if we could read, it is mentioned as he entered as a Paramatma feature, like in the four hands, right? Four hands form. And the form was beautifully described. But my question, it might look a little odd, but when Parikshit Maharaj was in the womb of his mother, he was also very small, and he could be able to see the Lord in the thumb size, but still he could be able to perceive the Lord's form as a four hands, and then what are the earrings he were making. The explanation is given, right? About his form. So basically, my question is, Uttara is having Paramatma in her heart because she is a woman, and Krishna enters into each and every living being as a Paramatma, right? So already Paramatma is there in Uttara's heart, and also Parikshit was a very small boy. He might be having, I don't know at what stage in the womb of the mother. My question is, at what stage actually in the womb of mother Paramatma actually enters into the heart of living entity? In that, if it has already entered into the heart of Parikshit Maharaj, he is still there, and then this is a third Paramatma, right? If we could see, if we can count a third Paramatma entering in again in the form of, because it is clearly mentioned that Paramatma only came, right? The thumb size, four hands form of Paramatma. So is it so the third Paramatma is entering again into the heart and showing his form, and if that is the case, three Paramatmas at a time were existing in the womb of Uttara, in the heart and also in the womb. How do we understand, Prabhu?
Well, from what I understand, the Paramatma and the soul, as soon as life, the Paramatma never leaves the soul within the material world. So wherever the soul goes, if it's in a material body, it has Paramatma there. So so as soon as life enters the body via the soul, Paramatma is there. Just like in the Upanishad, it explains that tree where the parrot, there's two parrots. One is trying to enjoy the fruits. Sometimes they're eating bitter fruit. Sometimes they're eating sweet fruit. Then there's the other parrot is there just to observe, right? So that's Paramatma parrot, just to observe. But also we read later on in Srimad Bhagavatam 2nd canto, where Brahma, he creates everything. All the material elements are there, right? But there's no life. It's just matter. It's just there, like there. There's nothing is happening. So not until Lord Vishnu breathes life into that creation does life, does things become, alive. So that breathing is where he puts Paramatma, his energy, throughout everything. So as soon as the living entity, as I think we talked about last week, like the soul enters the sperm of the male and then finds the egg of the female, and then the material body starts to develop. So that without super soul there, it can't happen. Mm-hmm. So super soul is always there. Mm-hmm. So that's first question. When does the super soul come? It's there always with the soul.
Soul is alive means, the body is started taking the form, means super soul is there in that body.
Yeah, from my understanding.
Without super soul's existence, it is not going to develop also. That's what it
It's
means.
not going to develop because he's not, and neither is the soul. The soul's not developing. The soul and the super soul are there to give the body life to develop.
Okay.
Right? Without it, their matter can't develop.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
In inanimate objects, the super soul binds everything together. Right? He enters every atom, and every atom is able to sustain itself by Paramatma. But it's inanimate, right? So there's no living entity there that animates it.
In this point, on the same note, I just want to check with you whether my understanding is right. When the Mahavishnu glances over the Prakriti, hence his glance through Shambhu, so the living entities comes alive. The life, they start their life, right? So at that point of time, while giving life to the living entities who are in the womb of Prakriti, along with them, even Paramatma also enters into them.
I wouldn't say that he gives life to the living entities. I mean,
agitates the Prakriti through the glance of Shambhu.
If you're talking about living entities as in the material body, but the soul isn't given life. It is life. It never stops existing, right?
Okay.
It is never not alive.
Right.
Right. So we understand that point. So, but still, without even if the soul is impregnated within a body, right, through whether it's through the breath of Mahavishnu when he releases it after the devastation, and he absorbs all living entities, all spirit souls into his body, and then he breathes them back out to populate the next universe after the next creation. Without spirit soul there, matter can't sustain itself.
Yes.
It is Paramatma, it is Krishna in the form of Paramatma that sustains everything within the Mahatattva. So anything within the Mahatattva cannot sustain itself without Paramatma. Okay. So the living entity, the spirit soul, isn't of matter, right? It's of spirit, Satchidananda. Right. Very little Satchidananda, but Satchidananda all the same. Little bit independence, but completely spiritual. So that the spirit soul doesn't have the potency to sustain. It gives life and animation and the ability to enjoy and suffer, so to speak, to strive to enjoy and suffer within the body. But Paramatma gives the power to do all such things. But when one spiritual body awakens, when one awakens the spiritual body and spiritual realization, whether they're in Vaikuntha or in Goloka or wherever, whichever spiritual kingdom, from what I understand, Paramatma is not there, because the body and the soul at that point is non-different. Just like Krishna, when he appears within this world, he's not in a material body. There's no separation between Krishna via a soul and Krishna via a body. It's not different. So his body is completely spiritual. It's like when we enter the spiritual realm, we don't have a material body. Our body is not separate. It's the identity. It's who we are. It's the real ego, right? The false ego means I identify myself as this material body. Thus I am man, I'm woman, I'm black, I'm white, I'm red, I'm yellow, I'm whatever. I'm this occupation, I'm that occupation, I'm this in this position or that. That's false ego, right? Thinking that I am something I am not. But when we awakened real ego, our real self, our identity of spiritual nature, the soul and the body no longer is separate. So there's no longer a need for Paramatma to sustain it because it's spiritual, from my understanding. It's going a bit more deeper than I have any actual praman for. So we might need to just move on from there because I don't know. I can't cite the Shastra to such conclusions. But what I've heard from, those who are more senior and learned than I am, that's what I understand. But and then was there a second part to your question that I'm forgetting?
My question is, then Uttara has a Paramatma in her heart.
Oh yeah, right.
And then Paramatma came, Prabhu, 3 Paramatmas, then we can understand at that particular time.
I think it's kind of a moot point because like Paramatma is, it could have been the Paramatma in Uttara's heart that came down into the womb. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know exactly if it was 3 or if it was just Uttara's, the Paramatma already in Uttara's body that came down to protect the unborn child. It could be either one, but really, like, I mean, if you take like, anything, you take a leaf, for example, or a piece of wood, right? Every atom that makes up that thing has Paramatma in it.
Right.
Anything. So
right.
Like this chatter, right? It somehow Paramatma is within every atom of the fibers of this chatter. So there's how many fibers, how many atoms does it take to make this chatter? Even this one little piece right here, you can see. It's got to be so many atoms, right? So, and Paramatma's in there. So how many Paramatmas is that? It's almost inconceivable to think about, right? So if that's the case, then how can 3 Paramatmas not be there, right? It's that revealing himself, right? He's revealing himself to me, that's the astonishing thing, that he's actually revealing himself. How many times we chant Hare Krishna, we look at the deity, but still Krishna's not, he's not moving. He's not showing us his transcendental qualities, right? To me, that's the astonishing part, is that this little embryo who, and then for his whole life, he was searching for Krishna, right? He was always eager to serve the Lord.
It's a very interesting discussion. When Radhakund Mataji, how many Paramatmas are within you?
Yes.
How many Paramatmas are within you?
How many Paramatmas are within you?
Only one Paramatma.
What about all the, leave aside the atoms, what about all the microorganisms that are in your body, in our body? Actually.
Yeah, so Prabhu, makes a lot of sense. So many Paramatmas.
Yeah. So I think that's, I agree with what Bhagavatam Prabhu said.
Yes.
I mean, specifically about Paramatma in the material world versus the spiritual world. Paramatma gives life. Without Paramatma, the jiva cannot exist in the material world, because Paramatma, Jiva Goswami talks about this in Paramatma Sandarbha, that Paramatma is the regulator of Prakriti in union with the jiva. Because you have spirit soul, something that's non-material in the material world, and the Paramatma has to enable that jiva to exist in the material world. So that's point 1. And point 2 is that as in the spiritual world, eternal life. So Paramatma does not exist internally, because Paramatma is manifesting externally as Swayam Bhagavan, Krishna. And then point 3 is Bhagavan always remains Bhagavan at any time. our philosophy is, that Mahavakya, Brahmaneti, Brahmaneti, Bhagavaneti, iti shabdate, right? 1.2.11 Bhagavatam. So Bhagavan can suppress his qualities for the need that arises. For example, Brahman darshan versus Paramatma darshan versus Bhagavan darshan. And so, he has that inconceivable potency to suppress at his will. And therefore, he can manifest himself as Paramatma, but his eternal Bhagavan nature is always present. Srila Prabhupada hints at that in this verse. So I think that's kind of the point Prabhupada is making, that Paramatma can manifest itself, if Bhagavan desires, by removing some of the suppressed qualities that Paramatma has. Do you follow?
Yes, Prabhu.
So I think what Bhagavatam Prabhu is saying is backed up by Jiva Goswami and Paramatma Sandarbha. Like Paramatma doesn't stop having, qualities of Bhagavan. Our view, unlike Mayavadis, is Bhagavan downwards. Like Bhagavan suppress more, Paramatma qualities, suppress more Brahman. Our view is not Brahman, Paramatma to Bhagavan. So those are my understandings.
Very nice, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Valnita Prabhuji, and also Jaisichan Prabhuji, for the wonderful explanations. I'm so grateful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anything else?
I really like the Archa Vigraha. I mean, I'm glad you read the second verse. I really like that. The purport has so many wonderful things in it. I really like Srila Prabhupada's use of words where he talks about Archa Vigraha is therefore all spiritual form of Lord to be perceived by material devotees. And then he puts semicolon, such an Archa Vigraha of the Lord is never to be considered material. So it's kind of like the non-material manifests to the material eye.
Yeah.
No difference between matter and spirit for the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada very nicely explains how to understand this apparent contradiction of being perceived by material devotee, although the Lord himself is not material. Because he says there's no difference between matter and spirit for the Lord, although there's a gulf of difference between the two in the case of the conditioned living being.
Yeah.
And something very nice that comes out in Tattva Sandarbha is, for example, is there a difference between Swayam Bhagavan Krishna and his flute? There cannot be. Because as soon as that occurs, if there's a difference, then the Lord becomes material. Because by association with Lord, everything has to be aprakta, meaning, and swabhavika, meaning non-material and of the same quality as Bhagavan. So even the material world, that Sandarbha explains, is actually aprakta. But due to the jiva's perception, it becomes separate from the spiritual world. So Srila Prabhupada explains that very nicely in just one sentence. No difference between matter and spirit for the Lord, although gulf of difference for the two in the case of conditioned living being. And then the example of the pure devotee. That's how an uttama alakari can exist in the spirit material world. Very wonderful verse. Thanks for exploring it so nicely. I knew as soon as I saw the purport and your experience in Archa Vigraha that would bring out some nice realizations. I also liked your statement from Bala Maharaj about weapons of mass destruction. I also like the statement by Radha Maharaj that you quoted of weapons of mass distraction rather than.
Yeah.
He's very insightful in his usage of words.
He uses that a lot.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I think should we end at this point?
Yeah, if nobody else has anything.
Okay. Thank you, Radhakund Mataji. You always appreciate devotees chanting the Bhagavatam very nicely and summarize very nicely. That's a sign of intelligence, is what Srila Prabhupada says. To hear carefully and then to ask scrutinizing questions means you're paying a lot of attention to each sentence. That's wonderful. Hope we get those kind of qualities in time.
Thank you so much.
Take care, devotees. Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nanti Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai.
Prabhupada ki jai. Bye, Gopal.
The Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone.
Hare
Hare Bol.
Krishna.